Everything chilling. Walking across the street. Do this, keep it. Big old bug. It's in the window or butterfly or something. Tough. Tough. Get out of here, y'all. That joint's still on there. This joint hanging on the window hard.
My oil pan on, I'm connecting a 90, so we've bought a lot of pretty good quality fittings, and I have a longer hose, so I'm going to connect this 90 up into here. So I'm going to take this hose off, use the longer hose, and we can make one shot. But you can see how it's nice and tucked since I have the cover off. Nothing is touching back here. This clears our starter wire great. So that turned out pretty good. Our oil will come out, drain. It's still coming down, so there's no restriction. Down, rotate back around, and then we'll shoot right over into the top part of that oil pan. Let's get it done. Slowly knocking out some of the little tedious tasks. Nothing hard, but small tedious things that it's time consuming, and just making sure you have somewhat a nice, good quality fit. So we have our turn coming off of our turbo for our return. 45 here, I have a 90. These are push-on fittings, hose connections, which they do hold really good. A lot of times I'll use the stainless steel cable ties just to secure them, just to make sure. I'll make sure when I zip tie them in, I have the cutting tool right here, especially for the stainless steel cable ties, and these give it a nice clean cut. I'll usually make sure when I tighten them up, I catch it right between one of the ridges that secure the hose on each side. So we're coming down. I used a cable strap also to secure the hose. We're clearing our transmission pan, coming back around, back into a 90, and under, going into the oil pan. So turned out fairly good. Something that needed to be done. I would have liked, like I said before, to get it up here a little bit higher, but we still got it in somewhat of a pretty good place on the oil pan. So we're going to continue with making some progress now that I can put the compressor housing back on. And this is, like I said, remove, test, fit, install, and we're going through the procedures of making progress to get this thing put together. Came back upstairs to do some digging around in the original Garrett boxes where we purchased the turbocharger, and luckily inside we have the oil feed flange and a stack of gaskets, which is awesome. It's probably at least 5 gaskets in here and our feed. So this is going to be pretty cool, and we're going to have to make some adjustments because Teddy also have right here a TurboSmart, and this is basically for oil pressure regulator for the turbocharger. So we'll see how this turns out. Also with the smaller restrictor that comes in here, it may not be a necessity to run this at all. This can adjust our fuel. I'm messing with the fuel also, but this can adjust our oil pressure, which is pretty nice. And it comes with a support bracket also if we wanted to mount the bracket and have this in a certain location as far as adjusting the feed. So that depends on our oil pressure. But I guess the great part about this is it will regulate somewhat consistent. So I'll still pipe it in line, and we'll go with this also. And if we have to make adjustments, then we'll tackle that when we get to that stage. So I just lightly coated my gasket, not much. I mean, you can actually see right through the silicone itself, the sealant, very light. I usually try to keep it on the outer part of the perimeter, so that way once you compress it, you do not get any type of gasket sealant too close to the inlet for the oil feed, because you do not want to cause any type of blockage. So it's extremely important, if you're going to do something like that, use just a teeny bit. Make sure you stay away from the inlet. I literally use my flat tip screwdriver also on the top part and the bottom part of the gasket, just to scrape clear a circle around the top part and bottom part, so that no type of sealant gets into my turbo inlet. That's why I'm pretty much a fan of the threaded style fittings that will thread into the cartridge housing, and that way you can probably put a Teflon tape around the threads itself. But I also use a flat washer along with the shredded type of washer. The reason I use a flat washer underneath is because that'll give a nice good clamping force, and also this steel shredded style washer, you do not want that to gouge into the aluminum housing itself, because what will happen is that will cut into the aluminum housing of the flange and start to take away material from that part. So we're going to go ahead and torque this in place, and it is definitely dark outside, and we've made some good progress today, but small tedious steps to continue to proceed forward. Let's tighten this up. I had to trim down some hardware to fit perfectly, so I had different size bolts, but I wanted to get a nice length because I'm going to stack some washers on top to use with the gasket. I'm going to use a flat washer and this locking washer too. These things are great for holding in position, so I would rather have something pretty good to prevent any type of oil leakage. We don't want any of these hardware bolts to vibrate loose, cause oil to squirt out, get up on this turbo header, anything hot right around here, and catch on fire. So we definitely want to make sure our hardware is good and secure. So this is, of course, grade 12.9, nice hardware, but I cut the length of the bolts really good, to the point where with the bolt itself, without the gasket installed or any washer, you can see that I can wiggle and move this around the bolt and oil feed flange. If I snug it tight, of course it's secure, not moving. Loosen this back up, I can wiggle it, seconds, nice. And if I loosen it back up, so this will work great. So when I stack my washers as well as my gasket, the studs will go down as far as I can get it into here, because it's not a through bolt. So since it's going into the cartridge housing itself, I want to make sure I can utilize as much of this threaded portion as possible without using the shorter bolts. So I was able to go longer and stack some washers, so that the washers help lock it in position, as well as I'll put a little bit of silicone around the gasket. It's not really necessary with these type of gaskets, but a copper style silicone will help and won't hurt. So let's go for it. Pretty much finished up with the oil pan. I welded on a -10 oil bung, and I located it in this position, so that way I wanted to get it up as high as possible on the oil pan and give it a part where it drains off. It won't be no type of restricted flow, something blocking the outlet of it. So as you can see, this trough right here, I kept it in line with that, and if we rotate around, you can see that the outlet would drain pretty much in this trough. Now I'm getting ready to bolt in the windage tray, but as you can see, the oil pan has a upper level, it's tiered off. So right off of here, this is the higher point. Down here, the lower section, that's where our main pickup for our suction, our dry sump, pretty much the pickup for the oil pump is down in that location. So it would protrude through this opening right there with the screen in it, and it would sit down in this lower section right there. But let's go ahead, get this bolted into position, put a little silicone all around it, and bolt it back into the car and connect the return line from off the turbocharger. Excuse the noise, I have neighbors getting this huge tree cut down in their front yard, and we have some massive trees in our neighborhood. And let's continue to work forward to bring this beast to life. All right, I told my friend I wasn't going to let this stop me, so it takes a lot more. We're driving, we're striving, we got a lot of people rooting for this project, and we thank you all for being in our corner with the support, positive comments, giving us just extra insight, things that we could have possibly overlooked if someone made a suggestion. So some people made a few good suggestions, and we listened to them. We may have already been on point with a great deal of them because the things were already thought out. Of course, these videos come out before my work, I'll say, is finished far before the videos are released. So by the time people see this and they make comments on it, most times we've already come up with a solution. But hey, if you still come up with a great solution and we have to backtrack, was a great idea, we thank you for it. So let's go ahead, put that oil pan on, connect this hose right here, which would be our dash 10 turbo return line. We'll hook that into the oil pan. Start looking and gathering material, order some parts for the top feed, and we'll see where we're going to feed the top port from, whether it's going to be off one of these ports back here or something. I'll put a T back there. I've completed the task of connecting the return line from the turbocharger to the oil pan. Now I want to work on making some progress with the feed line. So unlike my Turbonetics turbos, this one uses a dual flange to bolt in my oil feed. So the oil flanges that I have is a little too large from some of the Garrett turbos I ran back in the day. This one would be for a return. So we have to order something a little bit smaller and some gaskets, spare gaskets for this until he switches up. Now in the future, Teddy is planning on swapping over to, I'm saying Turbonetics, Precision Turbo. So he's planning on swapping over to Precision Turbo. I'm looking at some of the old Turbonetics parts and stuff like that. That's why I have that on my mind. So this Garrett, this is the 1450. This is nice, and it spools good. But a lot of the newer Precision Turbos, Gen 2s and up, they are spooling up a lot quicker, and meaning quicker spool time, more horsepower at lower RPM, and building boosts a lot quicker. So he's probably going to do that, and at the same time he'll have the track support of Precision Turbo. I do have Precision Turbo, a Precision Turbo for my Audi TT out front, and I will continue to stick with that for the time being. This is an awesome turbo now, don't get me wrong. We're going to run the heck out of it and try to max it out. So unlike this, I'll show you on my GTI where I have Precision Turbo, and you can see the feed for my Precision Turbo is a thread in. So yeah, I got Teddy's intercooler piping and all kind of crap piled up on this GTI engine. It's a shame. And a lot of the YouTubers and people are requesting footage, some information, documentation on this. They want to see this thing get from under the pile of trash. I've been using it as a storage compartment. You can see all the stuff inside it. And it'll start right up. If I wasn't busy, I would literally just turn the key just to prove it can start up. It's been sitting this long. Sadly, I think I have E85 in the tank, and that probably does no justice for longevity sitting in with your fuel injectors and your fuel line. I should have flushed it out with some 93, but the few times that I've turned it over, it fired right up. But there's some good stuff in here, and I'll give a quick sneak peek. It's boxes of brand new parts, and buried under all of this, I mean, I have some really nice stuff in here. It would be, you can see this, I'm running some, this would be my pickup coming off my distributor. I had literally modified one that works really good with the cherry red sensors. And under here is boxes of brand new parts for, I got brand new seat belts. Date's probably expired, which is a shame. And all of this that's buried under here would be Field Tech products. Boxes and boxes of Field Tech, brand new Field Tech 650, all this stuff. Got the whole 9 yards, the whole Field Tech setup. But you guys will see that soon. That's another time. Let's get back to the T2. I have my oil feed flange bolted in position, and everything turned out really nice. You can see that not much at all squeezed out of that gasket. As you can see, I just used silicone around the outer perimeter. Tried not to get close, or I did not get close to the inlet for that oil, because you do not want to get any type of gasket sealant into that port, and eventually it breaks off from the force coming through here and plug up your oil feed for your cartridge. You do not want to do that, because then you're going to kill your turbocharger. So that's bolted in position. I have some nice washers and everything locked in position, so I don't have to worry about this flame shifting around or anything. We're going to order some black AN fittings, 4 AN for our feed for the turbocharger, to kind of stay with the theme of all the anodized black housings and parts that's in the engine compartment. Of course, it'd be nice to eventually possibly do the intake and throttle body assembly and stuff like that. But the funny thing about it is, once the front of the car is bolted on, you can't see any of this. You can only probably see just the top edge of this from the radiator shroud, because it's so close. None of this is going to be seen, so that's trivial about having that done. Of course, it'll look nice once we take the front end off, having all of that coated black. But if that's the case, we'll probably do something like a nice, anodized coating, or you can do a temperature coating, something that'll help prevent heat, almost like a heat bearing coating. So either way, we're going to get some fittings ordered for that. We're going to come back off of our oil feed housing. I'll use an adapter from here that'll convert this over into a -4 AN fitting and come up and connect that to my TurboSmart oil pressure regulator, and we'll come from here to the feed for the turbo. So let's go ahead and pack it up for the night. We made some fairly good progress. We have our return line coming in nice and situated, strapped off, so that way it's not really making much contact to anything, and that feeds directly over to a 90 going into the top part of our oil pan. All of that turned out really good. Eventually in the future we can order some heavy duty braided line that come down in here, but this just suffice at the moment. There's a heavy duty Goodyear heater hose, so I've used some of this for a while. There's not a lot of heat in this area, like on the backside of the engine. On the backside, I've used stainless steel tubing and flex lines to feed from that, because there's so much heat. And eventually, when I had started using some type of hose like this, I definitely had to wrap it, because there was so much heat on the backside of the engine. But here, this is all, like I said, temporary. It's a work in progress, and we're just going to continue to move forward. So the next step, I'm getting pretty close to just go ahead and jump on my wires down. We have our direct injectors connections, our plugs already modified for that. We have our stage injectors, these large, huge injectors. These things are big. So I did a little video shot in that of the previous video, and we're going to start prepping for the wiring tomorrow. I ordered a lot of parts yesterday, miscellaneous small little parts. We got heavy duty hose, coming for our return line. This is just temporary, as I stated before, heat hose just to get it in place. So when I do go to do the startup, if I don't have a lot of material in, at least oil can drain off and go into the oil pan, and we can still test. But either way, I ordered some heavy duty reinforced return line, and this return line can handle oil, fuel, E85, different things like that. And it has a burst pressure, I think, if I'm not mistaken, of 300 psi. So of course 300 psi should not be going back through a drain line. If you have 300 psi going through that, you got some major issues. Also ordered a lot of the fittings for connecting the feed. We came off, so here, this is actually a 10 millimeter, so by 1 thread pitch, so 10 millimeter by 1. I ordered that to a -4 AN. So we're going to come off of here, and we don't have much clearance, but I need to come off of here. I ordered a banjo also, where the banjo can give me room to actually just bolt the banjo in position. I'll still have the clearance from my throttle body, and I can come off of here, either raise it up and come around, or come over and below. We'll come off of here with a -4. So I got a banjo -4 AN fitting coming. We'll connect that, run that all the way up to our regulator, and this is an oil pressure regulator, of course, OPR, for the turbocharger. So this is some TurboSmart came out with. This is just set at 40 psi of oil pressure. It keeps a fixed pressure, no changing. It just constantly maintain 40 psi of oil pressure going to the turbocharger. So of course some inlets may have a small port to try to restrict the flow, but either way it's 40 psi. So I'm going to hook that up. We have the bracket that came with it, and we're going to mount this in a convenient location. I'll probably mount it right here. That way it'll still work in a good location without blocking anything major, and it's a pretty good location. So we're just trying to squeeze parts in wherever we can get them in and be effective. So of course if I clock it here, my inlet coming in to the feed can be over here. We'll come off the bottom with a 90 because it is a regulator. The oil comes in. I'm gonna block this off. I ordered some AN fittings to block this off also, and to go in here too. So this is the outlet to feed into the turbocharger. We have some 90s coming also, so a 90 is coming off of here. I ordered a 45, so a 45 can come from here and then bevel taper downward to go towards the feed. So I cleaned up my threads and I installed 2 plugs in there. I wrapped Teflon tape around it so we have a nice seal. We don't have to worry about any type of leakage from that. One of the good things about this particular style oil adapter is it has a plug on each side, and as you can see for here and over here, you can monitor your inlet as well as your outlet for your oil temperature. That way if you wanted to data log, you can see how efficient your oil cooler coil is, and if you need to upgrade to a better one, see how efficient it is. But now we have that done. We're going to go ahead and install this back on the car. These were the original tubes that was used for the original factory adapter. They were a lot longer, so I chopped off the factory one, shortened it down. That's why you see that these are cut off. There's 2 of them. I cut off one for my car and for Teddy's car. I was like, well, I'm doing Teddy's, might as well take care of the old adapter modification for my TT as well. So I cut these down and used a die and cut new threads into the sleeve. And when I did that, and I'll just take a look, show you over here. In this top housing, I shortened this up, as you can see, and that'll allow me to be able to sandwich the smaller oil adapter into position. I made a little progress today with the do's and the don'ts, and never as much as I would like, but either way it's all a learning experience. So I have the TurboSmart oil pressure regulator mounted. This is probably the location we're going to go with right here. I'm going to come off here with either a 4AN 90 or 45 and let that feed. So I was preparing the oil housing, the oil filter housing, and I removed it because it'll make it easier for installation. So when I tried to install my sensor, the tower of my sensor is so tall it would push up against the crossover pipe right up in here, and unfortunately that means I couldn't get my connector on with my sensor pushing up against that top part of the housing. Pretty nice cool. This thing has got some weight to it. Unfortunately, the weight can be the enemy of a performance car, but this is pretty nice. If I'm not mistaken, I don't want to say wrong, but it's at least, I think it was a 20 pull. I can count the rows, but either way, I'm not going to bore you with that. But it's at least a 20, at least 20. I want to say 20 row, but this is nice. I wanted something somewhat compact. They did have, if I'm not mistaken, a 10, a 15, and 20 was in increments, and I probably went with either the 20 or the 25. But I wanted something somewhat compact to try to squeeze this somewhere. And as you guys already know how tightly confined that engine compartment is now, since we've added that 3.6 with the turbo plumbing and intercooler plumbing, and everything is insane, but it's been squeezed in position and still fitting fairly well. So I didn't want to go too large with this. As I stated, the fan is pretty nice. This should fit fairly well, and with the shroud on there, this covers up really good, as you can see. So not bad at all. It has some hoses that came with the kit, and these hoses are reinforced with like a nylon, webbing to kind of prevent expansion of the hoses and stuff like that. It's not bad at all. So we'll possibly have to shorten the hoses, take the connectors off, cut and re-shorten them, depending on the location that we put this at. But it's not bad at all. So the only thing I was concerned about is I will double check to see if these 90s will fit. Or if it's more convenient for me to order some 45s, dash 1045s, and connect these. I can also clock the housing around a little bit, so that may give me the room I need and actually save for spending an extra cost, and we'll use that money somewhere else, going into some other parts that may be a necessity for getting this thing up and running. All right, that's it for now.